Hey guys, what's going on? RetroGamer here, and welcome back to another review featuring the Sony PlayStation 2. So yes, I did review the Sony PlayStation 2 quite a number of years ago, but that was the PlayStation 2 Slim. And this one right here is the PlayStation 2 Fat from the year 2000, the original unit. And I really wanted to give a review on this unit because I feel like both units deserve their own individual review. And I bought this just about a month ago because I was feeling super nostalgic for PlayStation. I wanted to get back into the old PlayStation games. I never owned a Fat as a kid. I never saw anyone who had one. And so I really wanted to buy one of my own and see how it is. And I have to tell you, this thing is amazing. Like, I don't know why I'm so nostalgic for it, but I just love this unit to death. I love this Fat unit. I think it is one of the coolest things in the world. So I wanted to give kind of a half review, kind of just talking about nostalgia and showing you how it works and everything, and showing you kind of the small differences between the Fat and the Slim, and just walk you through a little bit of history of the Sony PlayStation 2. So this is the unit itself. It is big. This thing is fat, man. Like, sheesh, this thing is big. And this was on the market for 4 years. They didn't come out with the Slim until the year 2004, and this came out in late 2000 here in North America. So this was on the market for quite a long time until they came up with the actual Slim model. And if we're looking at it at the front here, you see the big PlayStation 2 logo. I think this just looks gorgeous. Like, this looks amazing. I love the way it looks. And if we see on the front here, we have a couple different things. We have the two ports for the memory cards, the two slots for the controllers, and this is some USBs for multi-tap, and also you could plug in a mouse and keyboard for a couple of different games. This is the power button right here and the eject button. Now, the eject really took me by surprise because if you remember on the Slim, right, you would press the button and it would have a lid that would flip up. And I was like, where's the button to open this thing up? And so when I clicked it, the tray slid out like shh. And I don't know why, but that like blew my mind. I was shocked. I was like, my guy, this is the future. Like, this is the future that we're living in now. That just blew my mind. I was so like just blown away. I was like, this is peak right here. This is the future that we're living in. I don't know why that took me by storm. I don't know why I was so happy about it, but that was one of the coolest things I ever experienced when I bought this thing. And also here with the logo, a lot of folks know now that this is reversible. You can turn it right or up, depending on if you have the unit standing up or not, so that it can correspond to what orientation you have it in. That's a really cool small piece of detail that PlayStation put in that. I think that is a really cool, important piece of detail that they did. Not a lot of people knew about it. I didn't know about it for like 20 years, so, you know, if you didn't know about it either, then there's something that you now know. And then on the back, not a whole lot going on. We got a power switch to turn off the power itself, to not send power to the unit. This is where you plug in the power. This is for the AV for the TV. And then this is the expansion port. I haven't even opened this thing up, so I don't know how to open this. Okay, so you just open it like that. And you could put in an HDD in here. So you could place a hard drive in here, and there were a couple games that required it. I mean, there's at least one, which is Final Fantasy. I don't remember which one, but there was a Final Fantasy game that actually required you to have that HDD in there. And then also it reduced load times in a lot of games. And other than that, I don't think it did a whole lot, but it was definitely useful in some ways. They did remove it in the Slim version, and some people took criticism to it. I mean, I never had any games that needed it or that really required it myself on the Slim, so it wasn't a big deal to me. But that's one of the things that they did take out in the Slim model. Also in the Slim model, if you remember, if we go back here again, they had the port for the network, so you could plug into internet. With the original, you had to buy a network adapter, but with the Slim, they had it built in. So that is one pro of the Slim. You could hook up to the internet right away, whereas this one, you needed the network adapter if you wanted to go online. So moving on from there, I can show you the memory cards. So these are third-party memory cards. These aren't the original. Well, this one is the original, or at least it looks close enough. This is an aftermarket, but they work just the same. And this is for PlayStation 2. This is for PlayStation 1. And one of the things that you might not know is if you're playing PlayStation 1 games on here, because the PlayStation 2, I should go back a little bit here and note that the PlayStation 2 is fully backwards compatible with PlayStation 1 software. You can play all your PlayStation 1 games on here, which is amazing. I love that. But if you want to save anything, you have to have a PlayStation 1 memory card. It will not save on PlayStation 2. I remember when I was in my early teens, I just assumed, and it's like, you don't have a memory card in. I'm like, check again, there is one. But it was PlayStation 2, of course. So you need a PlayStation 1 memory card if you're saving PlayStation 1 games. That's just something quick to note. And of course, they just slot in here easy, like there's nothing. Just slot in, and then pull them right out. And they work just fine. I mean, these aftermarket ones are great. Like this PlayStation 2 one has a lot of storage, and you can switch from A and B because it has 256 megabytes, and it's split up into 128 each. So I would definitely recommend buying both these. I bought both these on Amazon for like, I don't know, like $10 each maybe. So that's something to note. If we're going to controllers, so what I also bought is aftermarket controllers on Amazon, because this I just bought the unit itself on eBay, so it didn't come with any controllers. It was just the cables and everything. That's not a big deal. So a lot of people cringe really bad at aftermarket, and I do too. But let me explain. With PlayStation, in my personal experience, aftermarket doesn't really bother me. Like, yes, you feel a difference, but in my experience, a lot of the aftermarket are so close to the original that it doesn't feel unnatural. Now, the only real thing that's not great about this aftermarket is these nubs. They're just textured. They don't have that same rubber like the OG ones did. That's the only thing I really don't like. But other than that, it feels so close to the original that aftermarket on PlayStation 2 really feels normal to me. And I would recommend them, honestly. I would. I mean, they've come a long ways. Now, you know, back in the day with like Mad Catz and GameStop controllers, those were awful. Those are terrible. There were a lot of really bad aftermarket controllers like 15, 20 years ago. I think we've come a long ways now. There's still a lot of consoles that I don't buy aftermarket for, like the GameCube and stuff. I want the originals, but PlayStation, it feels so normal that I really don't notice much, and like it really doesn't feel unnatural either. But this is what would be a DualShock 1 or 2 controller, and it's very standard if you've seen any PlayStation controller up to PlayStation 3 and 4. PlayStation 5 is quite a bit different, but it's still normal-ish with the PlayStation 3 and 4, right? And you just have the two analog sticks, the start and select, the analog, the D-pad, all the buttons, L and R, and it feels really nice. And I really like these aftermarkets. You don't have to buy the aftermarkets, but they're a lot cheaper than the OG controllers. But I don't blame you either way. But I'm just saying, with these aftermarkets, they've come a long ways. And with PlayStation, in my experience, I've never had anything to really complain about. But I said like 15, 20 years ago, those were awful. Mad Catz was my most hated. Second was those GameStop branded ones. Those things were awful, and they were shaped super weird. Like, I saw some really weird ones back at GameStop. I was like, that's not a controller. It's like, have you seen what it looks like? Also, too, since it's backwards compatible with the PlayStation, of course, you can use DualShock 1 or 2, or you can use the original controllers. I do have an original PlayStation 1 Dogbone controller. And then, of course, after, I don't know, like 97, they released the DualShock 1, which, of course, had the two analogs here. But this was the original back in 95 for the PlayStation 1. And it hooks up just fine and plays, so you can play with your original PlayStation 1 controllers for PlayStation 1 games, or you can use the DualShock for PlayStation 2 games, whichever you prefer. And then if we move on to the cables, so if you remember on the PlayStation 2 Slim, it had that like cable adapter. It came in two parts. It had the brick, and then you plug this part in, the brick to the wall, and then the other brick to the back. This has its own unit in itself, so you just need a standard cord that's going to plug in. It's very standard. You can find a lot of these anywhere. So it's just a standard cord. You don't have that little like two-piece thing that the PlayStation Slim did. And then of course it has its own adapter for the signal to the TV. I haven't really seen any of these other than used on the PlayStation, so it will use its own thing. If you remember on the PlayStation 1, it was nice because it just had AV in the back, so you could just use any standard AV cables. Unfortunately, you can't do that here, but that's really not a big deal. If we look at the games were now in DVD format. So these are what the cases look like. It's a lot different from what the old cases look like. They came in just standard jewel cases. I know these are Japanese imports, but you get the idea. They're all the same. The old ones came in standard jewel cases. Still look really nice. But then when we moved on to 2000, we were getting into the DVD era, and so these were on actual DVDs, where the originals were on like standard CDs and whatnot. These were on actual like DVD discs, and so open it up, and you always will get like a manual. And hey, what's this? I've never even opened this before. Hey, yo, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to look at that. But other than that, it's just the standard CD and whatnot. And something that I forgot to know that I just remember now, talking about DVDs, and how could I forget this? One of the most important things about the Sony PlayStation 2 is it plays DVDs. This is a DVD player as well as a game player. And that was a big selling point for the PlayStation 2 because DVD players back in 2000 were expensive. And so this, from what I understand, basically cost the same price or was cheaper than a DVD player. So you had a DVD player and a game player. I don't know how they did that. I do not know how PlayStation did that and sold it for cheaper than a DVD player, but they did. And a lot of people bought this just as a DVD player. Like, I'm not even joking to you. Like, that was one of the coolest things. I remember using my Slim to watch DVDs and, like movies and TV shows all the time on the PlayStation 2. It was really nice. You could use the standard PlayStation controller to operate it, or you could buy a DVD remote for the PlayStation 2. Either way, it worked fine. And so that was a really big selling point for the PlayStation 2 as well. And so that's really all I have to say about it. I just really wanted to go on a nostalgia rant of the Sony PlayStation 2. Absolutely love it. Think it's one of the coolest things in the world. And if you're looking at a fat or a slim, it's really up to preference. I mean, as far as if you're just using it as a PlayStation, it's really up to preference. If you're looking into the modding scene, from what I understand, the fats seem to be better to mod. I'm not too knowledgeable on that. You can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong or if you know anything about PlayStation 2 modding. But from what I've been seeing, what I'm looking at, it really is just a matter of preference. I think the PlayStation 2 Fat is one of the coolest things in the world. I think like this is like the future. Like this blows my mind. It just screams 2000, but like in a futuristic way. And I absolutely love this unit. And, if you're feeling nostalgic for the PlayStation 2, want to get your hands on some of the hardware, I think you should go for it. Yeah, there's many easy ways to emulate and play PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1. Like, there's so many more easier ways. But if you're feeling nostalgic like me and really want to buy a PlayStation, go out there. Do it. Buy it. Just follow your heart. This is one of the coolest things in the world, and I promise you will not regret it. It's the Sony PlayStation 2. So guys, from RetroGamer, if you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys back here with another review. See you guys then.